For everybody who might not know me, I am Catherine Bergman. I'm the curatorial director here at DFAC, and I've been here 21 years. We welcome everyone to this gathering of Heroes and Sheroes, this exhibit that opened in September, is that right? As I was explaining when everybody was gathering, though this show was conceived of probably a year and a half or two ago, we had originally scheduled it for the summer. And because of the pandemic, we ended up surrendering the gallery to our children's program so they could use our gallery for a larger space. And summer camp did go on, and we were glad to be part of that success story. But we shifted the show then here to the fall, and we have thanks to all of our artists who stuck with us through that process. And so I welcome all of the Heroes and Sheroes today. Ronnie Elliott, my hero. Joan Duffour, my shero. Andre Heller is Nathan's hero. His shero, Nikki Pike. And Hilary, where are you, Hilary? And Ada, loving. Hilary, Nathan's shero, and Ada, Hilary's shero. So the concept of the show was, of course, that now more than ever, it seems that we are in need of being reminded of those we admire and those who uplift us. So it was our way of shining the light on those who shine the light for us. And what we're going to do is each sort of introduce our nominated folks. I do want to first thank our sponsors who make all things possible at DFAC. You can see I am sitting here in the Hero and Shero gallery of stars, and on this wall that I'm looking upon is a constellation of Heroes and Sheroes that's been growing over the course of the exhibit. And we have a book here in the gallery, so we've invited visitors to sign in their Heroes and Sheroes, and then we've created little stars that it's getting bigger and bigger. And I have to confess, it originally began almost as an unofficial polling station for the election. Thankfully, we went beyond that, and Ronnie started us out in strong fashion because he has many heroes and sheroes. So he's about a third of that constellation right there. We also have a group Facebook page where we're inviting people who have not yet been into the gallery and don't feel comfortable yet to be able to put their suggestions in. Now, Nathan, remind me, okay, one more thing that I, as you can see, I'm a little bit more loosey-goosey, but Nathan is one of my heroes, and he's on the constellation because he's not only a wonderful artist and a beautiful husband and father and curator. He's just the best colleague I could ask for. And I thank him for this Zoom presentation and literally every exhibition related Zoom event we've had, because he is the guru of, he's the mastermind. And so I am asking him, are we playing the
yeah, if you'd like, we can play
video of the show itself so everybody can see.
Yeah, we can give kind of this
Okay.
Beautiful video that Catherine's made beautiful.
choices the stars have given me. There's only one way to live. That is, live in a house of love. That's right, the universe is a house of love. You can make every house a house of love. You can't walk out of a house of love with a sword or a gun. There's none in there to come out with. You have to come out with a flower. If attacked, defend yourself with a rose. There's no other way to live. The stars beamed it into me, except by love. That's Lord Buckley.
Wow.
There. So allow me to introduce my hero, Ronnie Elliott. And that was Ronnie at the end, reading an excerpt of one of his heroes, Lord Buckley's quote. And Ronnie is a beloved Tampa singer-songwriter who I met through his blog. I didn't know so much Ronnie's music, but met him through his writing and his wacky blog illustrations, which he uses a lot of vintage, like pulp fiction covers, and he superimposes his head on the, on the villain or the suitor of the pinup girl. And I was completely enamored by Ronnie as an artist, and met him through a mutual friend of ours, Ray Villadonga, who has since passed. Love you, Ray. And I met Ronnie very fittingly at the Flamingo Bar in St. Petersburg, which was Jack Kerouac's a neighborhood bar. And they do a couple of events every year where musicians and poets come out. So that was when I first met Ronnie and heard his music. And he has, I just became an immediate devotee of his writings, from what you can gather, possibly from his selection of Lord Buckley's quote, are all about the things that matter to him and also to me. No more war, love, aliens, heartbreak. He covers it all, and he tells us, he draws us into his world, and we are, because he is one who announces himself as socially awkward and one who has failed many times at love, we feel at ease in his presence, or at least I did. But Ronnie has an incredible history, and I'll have him talk about some of his Heroes and Sheroes, but I just want to give you a clue of his background. He played music for 30 years before he went solo. He's got 10 CDs out, but in 1968, he introduced Jimi Hendrix. He also played in the backup for Chuck Berry. I mean, he has so many wonderful stories of many rock and roll legends, not least of all, Elvis. So I'm going to welcome Ronnie, who may play a song for us. I don't know. You can see here. Take it away, Ronnie. Don't let me talk too much.
Oh, no. Well, I have so many heroes that the only obvious selection, when you ask about them, was Elvis. After that, it becomes kind of arbitrary. But Elvis changed everything for me and for a whole lot of us in the world, I suppose, at the time. And while I don't think Elvis is responsible for rock and roll, he certainly showed rock and roll to a lot of us. So my whole life really is kind of a fourth grade Sunday school class with some rock and roll from Elvis Presley mixed in. That's really about it.
So that the picture there of you with your pink scrapbook having Elvis sign it, and tell everybody the story of the little piece of wood there.
Well, I think in this picture that you have up there, Elvis is stepping on that piece of wood. I had, in the third grade, a friend of mine asked if I had a piece of wood Elvis stepped on, and I didn't know what he was talking about. I sent off to a popcorn company. I ended up with this little piece of wood. It was supposed to be from his house where he was born in Tupelo being torn down. By the time I found out years later that the house had never been torn down, I didn't want to ruin the page in the scrapbook, so I left it in there. And as Elvis was flipping through the scrapbook, signing stuff for us, he asked me what that was, and I told him, and he laughed and tore it off, and he's standing there on that piece of wood as he's signing our photographs. That's me with my cousin, George, in the left of the photograph, and in the background, that's Elvis's cousin, Gene Smith. So it's me and my cousin, and Elvis and his cousin.
And in the exhibit, we have a photo of you and your mom and grandma, who really were instrumental in getting you and Elvis together, right?
Well, when I found out that he was going to film a movie in Crystal River, I had to find people who were old enough to drive to take me up to Crystal River every day to see him. So that's more or less how my mother and my grandmother were big Elvis fans, but they weren't going to drive to Crystal River every day.
Now, I mentioned that you and I met at the Flamingo, and the quote above there, "I only want to be with the ones that burn, burn, burn," of course, is taken from Jack Kerouac, yes. And that's one of your most requested songs, I would say. Is that right?
Yes, it probably is, yeah.
And it does play on the video monitor in the gallery, so everybody is very familiar with it if they hadn't heard it before. But we just saw, there's your mom and grandma.
Yeah.
Now, one of the clips on the monitor is the peace bonds. Will you tell about that?
Well, it has just always seemed wrong to me from the time I was a kid that we have war bonds, or we used to have war bonds, and that the country raised money by selling these bonds, a promise to repay the money, and it was to support a war effort. And I don't support any war effort. So I just started to print up peace bonds, and I sell them for a kiss instead of $1. So
Yes.
my idea of what kids in school should be investing their kisses in.
And you have revived that initiative at a number of concerts. It didn't just happen once, right?
No, it happens every now and then.
That's right. And I know that I got a couple kisses. At one time I got greedy and I stood in line twice. So I have my own Ronnie Elliott peace bonds.
Yeah, there's no limit.
Framed at my house. Yes. Yes. Now, tell us about Don Garlits.
Don Garlits is another one of my big heroes, another hillbilly engineer genius, and he just happens to be from Tampa. But he was he is to drag racing, I guess, what Elvis Presley is to rock and roll. He didn't invent drag racing, but he gave it a legitimacy, and he spread it around the world, and is probably by far the biggest, the most famous drag racing driver there ever was, and car builder.
Yes, and then of course that beautiful painting that you let me take off your living room wall for the exhibit of Elvis by Carl Cowden. Mm-hmm. Yes. Ironically, while Heroes and Sheroes was going on, we had a velvet painting show called Velvet Elvis.
Right.
So it was really perfect timing. Now, everybody might be wondering, now why did Ronnie get to have more Heroes and Sheroes than I got to nominate? But he just had so many, guys. I'm sorry. And they are all so interesting. So tell us a little bit about Lord Buckley, if you would, because that was a great discovery for me when you introduced me to Lord Buckley.
Well, Lord Buckley, if you're going to give him a title, I suppose he's a comedian, but I don't think he ever told a joke. He just told the truth. he was a hipster, fast talking crank who frequently took Shakespeare or the Bible or anything that he thought was important and turned it into pop culture and twisted it to his own weird way. A big influence on Robin Williams, Jonathan Winters, most of what we consider the roots of our comedy today. He was the root of that.
Yes, I encourage everybody, if you're not familiar with Lord Buckley, to investigate him. Here in the gallery, I don't think we had a photo of it, but we have a display of a book that Ronnie lent me of his bio, and one of the teen magazines that was featuring Lord Buckley back in the day. Yes. Well, Ronnie, do you want to play a song now or towards the end, or what do you think, guys? Shall we? What do you think?
Why don't you move on and see if you have time for a song, and that'll be
Sounds good.
guitar handy.
Okay, and now I will pass the baton to Nathan. Yes?
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Hilary, you and I are going to talk about ourselves here. Are you with us? Hilary, can you hear me?
Let me see. Okay.
Yep.
Can you
okay.
hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let me find you here. There you are. Okay.
So, yeah, you go first, right?
Yeah. Okay. So Hilary is, I just want to preface both my conversation with Hilary and Andre with saying, thanking them for being a part of this, and just saying to everyone who's here today how difficult it is to choose a hero or a shero, because like Ronnie, there's so many people in our lives that are so influential and act as mentors and guides, and like I guess what helped me in choosing a specific person was both my hero and shero share a common quality, and that is their sort of adaptability, their willingness to change, their strength and fortitude, and their generosity. And so, Hilary, you and I met back in the good old days.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s. I was a young man who had just moved to Denver and was looking for some work within the art field, and you took me on for some reason. So I've always been eternally grateful for that. And through knowing you, really got to open myself up to, I don't know if I ever told you this, but open myself up to talking to other people, and being really inquisitive about them. And of course that all took place in a sales environment, but it really opened me up as a person. So I think in terms of influence, you play a huge role in my life. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing. I know you've moved on to another thing now, and which has just kind of blew my mind, because we hadn't talked in a couple of years, and I found out that you're now in Trinidad, Colorado, which, for those of you who don't know, is a smaller city all the way in the south of Colorado, almost to New Mexico. And that's where you are now, Hilary.
Yes, that's where I am now. That's where I live now. I have to say that when I met Nathan, one of the things I remember was that I knew he had arrived for his job interview when I heard this coughing Toyota stumble down the street. And I thought, that must be my interview. And the Toyota didn't last very long after that.
That's hilarious. Sorry to interrupt, Hilary. That's hilarious. My wife, Kate, her mom used to say that same exact thing. She could hear me coming a couple blocks away.
That's right. Yeah, it really, it had a character all its own. Anyway, I was at a point in my career where I wanted to have some assistance. And when Catherine was talking about working with you, I fully applaud that, because working with you was just wonderful. And the consistency and the reliability of you in my life was terrific. And I was very sad when you moved to Florida, but obviously you have grown and gained and grown in your own art career, in your own painting and your family and everything. It's just wonderful. But I have to say that you came into my life at a very significant time, and you helped me through some really significant challenges, both personally and professionally. And you always have a very dear spot in my heart. And I'm so flattered and so touched that you chose me to be your Shero. I think that often doesn't happen when you're somebody's boss, that you're also their hero,
That's true.
So anyway, so it was, I don't know if do you want me to talk about anything else?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's get into the thick of things here. Is not only were you my boss, but, part of this exhibition, I think, is really fleshing out the dimensionality of people. And, one of the things that you did for Kate and I was you cooked a meal for how many, 50 people, 60 people? I don't remember how many people were there at our wedding. You cooked the whole meal because you're a cook, first of all. And then importantly, and what we're going to talk about today is your art form, poetry. You're a poet, a published poet. And
Yes.
We want to look specifically at this project called Prairie Crossroad. And I'm going to let you talk mostly about it, but for everyone who's watching, you see here's the website. You can purchase this book on Hilary's website, artconsultation.com. And this is the cover here with these two lovely young people.
Right.
Hilary, what is this project about?
Okay, well, I have a good friend named Kit Hedman, who's a really terrific photographer. And he and I worked together on a couple of projects, and he had some photographs of the Colorado prairie. Now, when most people come to Colorado, they think it's all mountains, and they want pictures of the mountains. But the prairie is a significant portion of the state, and the agriculture that is developed on the prairie is an important economic force in Colorado. And he was saying, and Kit had a friend who was teaching out there at a junior college on the prairie. And he said, Fort Morgan is the most interesting place because it has this hugely diverse population. And it has it because there are agricultural plants there, a meat packing plant, a sugar beet plant, a mozzarella plant, and many dairies that support the mozzarella plant. And he said they have labor from all over the world. So he said, I'd love to go out and take pictures of those people. And I said, well, Kit, if you take their pictures, I'll interview them and I'll write their stories. So that's how it began. And we spent about 2 years driving in. Fort Morgan is the county seat of Morgan County. And it's about an hour and 15 minutes northeast of Denver. So a couple times a month, 2-3 times a month for 2 years, Kit and I drove out to Fort Morgan, and we kind of networked our way. We started out with the woman who ran an agency called One Morgan County, which was working on developing a network of communication between the immigrants and the residents, which was an uphill battle many times. And then we got to know the people, and one person introduced us to the next, and pretty soon we probably had 75 people that we had talked to, and Kit had taken their photos. And so we narrowed it down, I believe, to 50 or 51. And that's the what's in the book. And I still have a soft spot in my heart for many of those people. And the person you just had on in the last slide, Eunice, this man's name is Eunice, he's from Morocco, and he and I still are friends on Facebook. And, you know, he had such an interesting story of his mother said, yes, leave, there's no work for you in Africa. There's no future for you in Africa. So come to the United States. So, you know, he came, and he probably will not see his mother and family very much in the rest of his life. So it was a really interesting, and the people that worked in the agricultural plants come from Africa, Somalia, Ethiopia, Uganda, Sudan, Morocco, and then they're also from Central America, Guatemala, Brazil. And so they come from, you know, all over the world to work in this little tiny community. And it's especially the meatpacking plant is a huge economic influence in the community, because it employs so many people. And the reason that it's good for, especially like people from Somalia that don't have any English, they can work in that plant. And the women who are in hijab, where the Somali women are completely covered, they can just put the garb, the meat cutting garb over everything, and they can do the work and earn a decent living without language and without very much training. This woman, she was raised in a Somali refugee camp in Kenya. So she had flawless English, and she served as an interpreter, especially for Somali women and men going to the doctors, because you know, the American doctors were not able to communicate with them. So that's one of the things that she did. She was a lovely woman, and really smart, and really on her way. You know, she wasn't going to get stuck with a bunch of babies and stuff. So she's really on her way. So project, and I have enjoyed writing about these people. Now, do you want me to read this poem now?
Well, I was just going to say, you know, another thing I learned from you by working with you and being with you on a daily basis, and talking with you intimately about your poetry, is how important it is to you and some other poets, the way it's read versus how I would read it. Mm-hmm. So, and then I just want to show everyone that's looking here, you see in between some of these words are extra space. And Hilary, I'm pretty sure that's fully intentional, just having talked to you. So what we wanted to do is let Hilary read one of these poems, because the way that she will say it might be different than how I'm reading it. And so it's about the intention of the expression. Yeah. So, and then you won an award for this.
Pardon
one?
me?
Is this the one you won an award for?
Yes, I won an award for the State Poetry Society has a competition every year, and I won a second place with this poem.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, well, let's please read the poem.
Okay. All right. This couple we met in the place called Drovers, which is a little down-home cooking restaurant that's backed, it's in front of the cattle auction yards. And so there was a lot of very down-home people in this restaurant. Night out. She bought the coat years ago, a city trip, chose the cornflower blue of her eyes, wears it winter evenings, cold Sunday mornings to church. Still fits, but she has not changed much over the years. Maybe a bit thinner, shorter, of course, her eyes paler. He and she drive to town every Saturday, errands, shopping, stop for dinner at the town's best place. Good meal, good price. He always likes her blue coat, reminds him of the bumper crop year, celebrated with a trip to the city, motel room, shopping downtown. Later that year, the twins came along. There are always struggles. They are farmers after all. But on Saturday nights, they still make each other smile.
Hopefully, Kate and I will get to that too.
I'm sure you will.
Well, thank you, Hilary. That it's really interesting to learn about the northeastern corner of Colorado being, you know, this island of diversity. So I don't think a lot of us know that. I wanted to say something, but I forgot. Oh, you know, one of the things that led me to defining a shero or a hero was their ability to adapt and reinvent. And you know, you're now in Trinidad, and you know, what do you do down there now? It's a small city. You seem to have reinvented yourself there as well.
Well, the thing about Trinidad that's very exciting is that Governor Hickenlooper, who is now our state senator, Hickenlooper, started a program called Space to Create. And Trinidad is the first location of this program. And Trinidad is an old city that has many beautiful historic buildings that were designed by these architectural brothers. They were brothers that came there in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they designed these beautiful buildings. And so there were 3 of them that were unused. So the program took those 3 buildings and turned them into live workspaces for artists. And there's also 20,000 square feet of common space that is going to be managed for a resource for the town. And it's being managed by the creative district of Trinidad, and I'm on that board. So I'm finding myself writing poems and doing art bureaucracy kind of things. And I'm also working as a consultant for the new hospital. They just built a new wing on the hospital, and I'm working as an art consultant for that.
Okay, good. But you still have time for friends like Ada Loving?
Yes, I do have time for Ada Loving.
Good. Let's move into to a conversation between you and Ada. I don't have much to say here because you know each other best, but Ada has sent us some very interesting objects, including this beautiful blue dress. And I'll let you take it from here. What we did ask for our heroes and sheroes to do was to write a little bit about why they chose their specific person. And Hilary, you wrote a poem.
I did.
A statement. So you could start with that, or you can, you know, move into that. So Ada, how are you? You're with us?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. And how long have you known Hilary?
Almost 50 years. I met her when she was 2. Uh,
That's right.
right, we're going to stick with that story. Yes, in fact, it is just about this time of year that
Yes.
we first met each other in 1971. So we've been hanging out together a long, long time.
Long, long time.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with the poem because it kind of goes through the history a little bit. And then Ada and I can chat after that. So,
Okay.
so this is called Ada. My first friend from Iowa, a farm girl. Her father struggled, weather, animal blight, alcoholism, yet brought music, dance to most Saturday nights. Mother filled in the gaps, kept farm, family warm and fed. During a bitter prairie winter, a new brood of chicks spent days in the family dining room, safe from icy elements. Lessons of resilience, intimate as marrow. We met the day I landed in Denver, refugee from the Rust Belt Midwest, a leaky marriage, months on the road. Unlike my family, she bore no judgment about my escape, welcomed me to sit, drink tea, tell stories. We shared life and secrets, her unexpected baby, my mother's early death, farm life, Motown moments. We marveled how different our paths that led to this crossing. She always worked, often a predictable job, Gal Friday, insurance office, side job, bartending. Made friends in both. Always positive about people she met. They loved her across the desk, the bar. My culture, religion, economics trained me to judge everyone. Better than, less than. I always came up lacking. She never saw a void, only the place in my heart where I trust. She lives there to this day, beaming a smile that made the guys at the bar fall in love. Many years have passed, both astounded at the age we have reached. How did this happen to nice girls like us? We have branched out, followed different dreams. She, graceful in swirls and dresses, my relocation to a quiet town. Sunday evenings reserved for tea and chat. We no longer have secrets. In 50 years, I have never tired of listening as she guides me back to the safe spot in my heart where she lives. And I'm going to cry.
Yes, beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. So Ada has been there, as I say, since the day I landed in Denver. And we could spend the next 3 or 4 hours telling you stories of our times together and the people and stuff like that. But the welcoming, embracing aspect of Ada has always been the thing that just endears me to her. And also her willingness to try something new. You know, she was in insurance for a long time and then ended up owning a dance studio. And now she's a competitive ballroom dancer when she can compete, because she can't do that right now. But she's just followed her calling all the way. So that's what I have to say about Ada. So I'm very proud of her, and I'm very, I love her very much, and I'm so grateful that she has been in my life.
Well, Hilary,
Oh.
I'm surprised that you made friends with an insurance person, first of all, but glad you did, because Ada is a beautiful person. And Ada, I was so surprised. I guess I never knew this about you. I never knew that you were a dancer. And, you know, you sent 3 of your, you know, 3 of how, I don't know how many awards you've gotten, but, you know, we love showing these, and, you know, we're showing this video of you dancing. I do have another video of you dancing. We can play that as well. How did you, when did you start dancing? What, you know, was it an escape, or was it's always been a passion?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Well, one of the things before I get started, I would just say to Hilary, who, by the way, all of you are just seeing a small piece of what Hilary does. Hilary's a fabulous art consultant, has been since the early 80s. And not only her poetry, but also her whole demeanor and the way she's run her life. She's been on this fabulous spiritual journey. She really delves into things. She's quite remarkable. So this situation certainly could have been reversed had I been asked for my Shero, because Hilary and I've been together a long, long time, and she's quite remarkable. As far as the dance, yes, I've always danced socially. My dad, who was a farmer, he also was a musician, and I went to a dance every Saturday night when I was growing up, a country dance. And my mom taught my sisters and I all how to dance. So I've always danced socially. I did take up tap dancing in my late 40s. And after 5 years of classes, I ended up buying the dance studio with my teacher. And I did that until about 2005. And then about 9 years later, my sister, my oldest sister, both my sisters live out here, developed dementia, but she always loved to dance. And she lived about 50 miles north of me. And so I would go up twice a week and pick her up and take her to a dance. And she passed away in 2016, toward the end of the year. And I just happened to have lunch with a friend 2 weeks later who said, by the way, I've taken up ballroom dancing. I said, oh, that's great. You know, maybe I'll get to be a better social dancer. Well, I took my first lesson, and 2 weeks later, my pro said, you know, I think you should compete. And that was in January of 2017. My first competition was April of 2017. And that's essentially what I've done now for the last 3.5 years. I've done a lot of competitions. I've won a lot of things, not because I'm the best dancer, but because there's a whole point system and so on. And I have danced a lot. I've been really fortunate. I started that when I was 70. I'm 74 now. I still continue during this pandemic to take 5 or 6 lessons a week, and hope to get back to competitions when the pandemic allows that. But I have been, I've been most fortunate, and my body is hanging in there with me, except I am going to get a shoulder replacement here in about 3 weeks. And, but that's okay. You can dance with your arm in a sling. It works.
Would you like us to share one of these videos, or would you like to keep talking?
Sure, you could share, you know, yeah, that would be fine. Share a video. Is there?
This is from
This is Dancing Smooth, and I'm not sure what we're going to be doing here.
I think this is in Las Vegas
Okay,
from TM Ballroom Dance Studio.
right. Yes.
Okay. The Las Vegas Open, I think they said it was.
Yes.
Sounds like you have fans in the. So,
That's nice.
those
Oh.
dresses are pretty amazing. Do you get to choose your partner, or is that randomly assigned to you?
No, he is my instructor. So it's a pro, it's a pro-am. And so I dance with my instructor, whose name is Todd Munson. And Todd has really pushed me a lot. I started out the first competition because I knew how to waltz when it's just that I had no idea that room dancing was all this technique, a huge amount of technique, but you know, most of us can waltz 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And so Todd, after my competition in April, I did the waltz, foxtrot, and tango. Then he said, well, now you need to learn rhythm. And so I learned 5 more dances to compete in June, and essentially dance about 25 different dances and in 5 different genres. So it's been quite a challenging for my body and my brain to do that. But I have been working diligently during this pandemic time on technique, what makes, everything just a little bit better. It's like any of those things, the beautiful paintings, the whatever, it takes a long time and takes a lot of work. And I've got a long, long ways to go. And I'm still very excited about it. It's great fun. I just love it. So I feel really fortunate that I'm able to do it.
And soon Hilary will be dancing with you, right?
Right.
What?
Right.
No, not me, not me. I just have one other thing that I want to say, just to Ronnie. Big Daddy Don Garlits was a big part of my growing up.
Oh,
I never went to a drag race. And I grew up in Detroit, so it was big. That was really big. So it's like a flashback to see Don Garlits.
He moved to Detroit for a few years.
Did he?
Yes.
Oh, maybe that's why, because he was always at the Detroit Dragway.
Well, he was well hated in Detroit.
Oh, was he?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So anyway, Nathan, thank you very much. This has been an exciting experience for me. And I think it has for Ada too, that it's just been wonderful to be participate in this.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Catherine and I want to thank you all again for your continued flexibility and bending like reeds. It's been a very strange year for exhibition planning. So, and always the hurricanes in Florida is kind of mix things up for us down here.
I would like to add to that, that you and Catherine as I was saying earlier when I came on, I'm so sorry with the pandemic that we did not get to come and see it, because it all looks so interesting and so many interesting things. And
That's
Catherine,
because you're interesting.
when you were relating the hugging thing, I thought, oh, that is so cool, and seeing all these things up close. And so thank you for including me and my, also I want to thank publicly my lovely Hilary. So
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
thank you both.
Oh,
Well, we'll move to conversation with Andre Heller, who's my hero. Andre, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, good to see you. I haven't seen you in 1,000 years.
Yeah, it's been a while, huh?
It's Andre, and we have a funny story, or funny to me anyway. We met back at Colorado State, where we both went to school. And Andre, if I remember correctly, which is probably not correctly, but if I remember, you had come from the philosophy department to the art department, and we met in the printmaking studio and kind of hit it off there. And after school, lost track of each other for a little bit and found each other again in Denver, where you were working for a gallery and I was working for a gallery, and then you sort of disappeared. And I thought through the grapevine I had heard you had gone to Antarctica, but I was wrong. You had, I'll let you tell the story from there, but you had you decided that you wanted something else in your life, and your life's journey just took a really inspiring turn to me from there. And again, tying into that, to the notion of what I've said before, you know, my heroes and sheroes having this quality of adaptability and strength and will and generosity. So what happened to you? Where did you go?
Well, so, I mean, first of all, like, just everything has to be prefaced with just how moving and flattering all of this is, and humbling as well, and so interesting to see people from around the world all talking about influences and things that they've done and sort of forks in the path that they've chosen along the way. For me, it's really touching, actually, really human. And, you know, I mean, maybe another word about that, especially in this time right now where we have so much distance socially between us, and many of us are living our lives working on Zoom. I'm like 6 hours a day minimum in teleconferences, and another 6 hours like heads down trying to get my work done in between them. And so it's actually nice to share human stories with people who aren't old friends and who aren't connections from way back when, but just to like actually listen to people talk like human beings. There's something like really cathartic and healing about that in such an unusual time, in such an unusual, isolated time. So I'll answer your question now, Nate. So basically for me, in working, in being a young artist, I guess, I was always interested in the intersection of social justice related issues and expression. And I had always, from school onward, been a part of a number of social movements that were largely, I mean, if you want to have a broad category for it, based in some form of social justice or human rights. And so I had chosen art as a way of expressing and communicating. And I wound up realizing as time went on that being an artist means being alone a lot of the time. And I liked connection, and I liked creative collaboration with other people so much, and felt so much more of a connection with the social issues I was trying to talk about. Whether it was like war or, workers' rights or indigenous rights, I felt so much more a connection in doing social action and activism. And so I had chosen art as my sort of first choice, and kind of realized through working at the gallery that I love the collaborative aspect of running a gallery and putting on shows and helping other people express their vision. But when it came to social mobilizing, that really made me feel alive and engaged and part of living history. And so I kind of walked away from what would have been a really great career in the arts. I say that now, obviously it would have been a great career in the arts. I would have done great. No, I say that jokingly.
Or you might
Who knows what happened in these worlds, but I walked away from a really great job with a lot of great prospects, and went to New Orleans at the time that Hurricane Katrina just sort of devastated the city. And I just sort of gave up everything that I owned. I quit my job right when I was being offered a really big promotion, and packed up some tools and went and lived in the lower 9th Ward and help people rebuild houses and do some sort of reclaiming of public properties that were scheduled to be condemned that didn't need to help communities reclaim their communities. And so in doing that, I just felt such a deeper engagement with the world, and I was really energized. And I wound up applying for a job and joining Doctors Without Borders. And for some miraculous reason, I was accepted as an employee. I'm Francophone, I'm half French, and I traveled a bit and had some work experience that was useful for them. And that was sort of where my big kind of turn in the road kind of took shape. I thought I was going to go in and do some good for a year or two of my life, and then, get back to a career. And now here I am 15 years later, working in human rights. Today I run a technology project. I don't know, actually, I'll just cut myself off there, or do you want me to keep on talking?
No, we can talk about Signpost and Coffee Overflow, maybe towards the end, what you're doing now.
Right.
But let's just talk about, this is the work that you were making in college when we met. Miraculously, these were under your parents' bed. So we had access to your art.
Bless their hearts.
I really wanted a piece of your work here to kind of highlight that part of your life. And you had another series that was all yellows, and I remember, really you talked a lot about Mark Rothko and that sort of experiential part of art, experiencing color. And then, but what we really want to get into here is the objects that you sent us from Africa, from your time in Africa. Here we have a couple of posters. This one here is the front side, and this is the back side. And there's instructions on here of how to fold it up and make it into some kind of mobile. And then you sent us this little car here. And the car to me was so striking because of the conversations that it brought up about objects and the stories they hold and the memories they preserve. So this is a replica of a Doctors Without Borders Jeep.
Yeah, the car is a really special little object. I mean, the story of that is really, this is from the Congo, from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And I lived and worked there for about a year and a half altogether. And, it was a period of pretty intense armed conflict in the region that I was living and working in. And there was a lot of displaced people. What you would sort of recognize as a refugee camp looking environment. There was a lot of those around the urban areas, and some of them kind of tucked back, sort of isolated in these really beautiful forests in this like volcanic part of Africa. It's sort of high altitude volcanoes and beautiful trees and silverback gorillas and all these beautiful things that would, that you'd want to go and visit on a holiday. But it was also an area that was really rife with armed conflict ever since the genocide in Rwanda and the sort of fall of Mobutu, the old dictator of Zaire at the time. But in any case, people were so industrious and creative and such entrepreneurs. And this is the thing that's really struck me about the years I've spent in Africa and in the Middle East and Central Asia, is just how industrious and entrepreneurial people are. And, I actually feel like we've lost a lot of that spirit here in the United States. At this point, everything's so corporate and big and expensive and everything. But it still really lives and thrives in the arts community. And so this car was made by, probably made by, the kid that sold it. And it was these replicas that they'd make out of these old tins that were used for oil, cooking oil distribution in the refugee camps. And they would take them and make them into these beautiful little vehicles that were really close replicas of the Toyota Land Cruisers, like these Jeeps that we rolled around in. This is an ambulance. We use these Jeeps as ambulances because a lot of the roads were pretty rough. And it's really special. It speaks both to a place in time for myself and this vehicle, and the countless number of hours I spent on the road in those things. What we did with them, and sort of speaking to our very minor role in what was a really turbulent moment for so many millions of people. And then really to the spirit of the people just trying to get some money in their pocket and put some food on the table. And it all kind of crystallizes in this really beautiful form, this beautiful object that speaks volumes about who we are and how people would reflect back our identity to us. And in a playful and light way, but also I think it's a little tongue-in-cheek, sort of recognizing our own self-obsession with our little toys and vehicles. But ultimately, it's just through one object, it kind of tells this bigger picture. This poster that's behind it is actually a work of art that I came across in the Tate Modern. I lived in London for 5 years. I was the director of programs at Doctors Without Borders, based out of London, for the last 5 years, or I guess a couple of years ago, for 5 years. And in this camp, this refugee camp, where you see the individuals standing, sort of hugging that radio, that was just outside of our house, that photo. And I just came across that, and it was taken at a time when I was there. And that was around the time that car would have been fabricated. And it was just really interesting sort of encountering this other world and seeing other artists working on amplifying voices and storytelling through writing, through graphic novels, and through photography. And so that piece is actually a collaboration between a writer and a photographer, writer, illustrator, and a photographer. And so every once in a while, you'll get these little flashes of your life that you lived that kind of emerge through your encountering an object or an image. And for me, it was, I don't know. This is why I sort of cobbled these things together to maybe somehow through art speak about experience that I've had in my life. As well as the little remnant from my days when I used to make objects myself.
All right. And now here's a little close up. And now you're working on this project, Signpost. And could you kind of just explain what kind of tech you're working with and what it does for people here?
Well, I'll sort of fast forward through, some things that set this up. I lived and worked in basically countries affected by armed conflict for about 8 years. I then was based out of London, where I ran a social sciences research unit, an advocacy group to better support people who are impacted by war. And we did a lot of collaborations with technology companies on various projects of various degrees of success. And there was something about technology that I really loved. There was a certain optimism, almost an ideology of invention that was bright and shiny and special, and it wasn't like weighted down by the world and all the hardship and suffering that myself and my colleagues had been, sort of entrenched in for such a long time. So I actually left the aid sector and worked in some early stage technology companies. They were everything that the startup thing could be, in the most epically bad ways and in some really exciting and fun ways. And I found my way back into the aid sector by having those experiences in technology meet a human rights project. And I had done a short-term assignment in the Congo, actually, again, when the Ebola crisis happened last year. And so I was the emergency director there for a couple of months, and the sort of head of emergencies of the organization asked me to run the tech project, and I wasn't planning on doing it, but I said yes anyway because everyone was so passionate about it. And Signpost is it's a project now that I run that is it's basically transforms information into power for people to help navigate their own journeys through a crisis. And it's kind of patches together a number of different technology tools and skills and expertise to deliver a kind of community-led information service where people can help get the information that they need to exercise their human rights and to find access to essential services to make it through the day. The idea with it is that you kind of flip the paradigm of who communicates and who gets to speak, and it's a project that's basically all about us listening before we talk. So it's trying to kind of decolonize information, as it were, in humanitarian context. That's what Signpost is.
Okay, all right. And of course, you've got the sustainable coffee company that you're working with as well. So you've got your hands in a lot of pots. You're a busy dude, but really walking through the world with an open heart and always looking for the best in people, even though you've seen the worst in people. So I always find that really admirable. You chose as your hero Nikki Pike, who's an artist in Denver. So as we did with Hilary and Ada, we're going to let you two kind of talk. Nikki, are you there with us?
Hi, Nathan.
Hi, Nikki. So you're an artist in Denver. We've got 3 of your wonderful pieces here. And why don't you and Andre tell us how you first met?
Art school, also.
Yeah, just from printmaking, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. It was just sort of another organic encounter, much like ours. I don't know. Do you have any particular memory of actually meeting? I think it was in a figure drawing class, actually. One of these after-hour figure drawing things. I'm pretty sure that's where.
I remember art history, but I guess maybe we were in probably a bunch of the same classes. I don't remember Nathan. I don't know if we ever got to have a class at the same time as well, but we were all right there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, we met at CSU. I did my first 2 years there as well, and then I transferred down to the University of Colorado in Denver.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we must well, maybe we did cross paths. I don't know. It's hard to say anymore. That was so long ago. But then you also have ties here to Tampa, Nikki.
Yeah, so I went on after my undergrad. I got my master's degree at the University of South Florida in sculpture and social sculpture, really. I spent, I elongated my career there. I spent, it was a 3-year program, and I took 1 year to go to China for an art project. Yeah, I learned the culture in Florida is a lot different than in Colorado, especially in Tampa versus Denver. And it gave me a lot of perspective and avenues to really grow up as an artist. I didn't really know how to make art after undergrad. I knew how to use tools and I had ideas, but I didn't know how to make art until I was there in Florida, just down the street, up the street from you.
Yeah. when I know that Ada and Hilary were saying that they really would have liked to come down here, and I know that we would have really liked that too, especially to have, you know, you and Andre down as well, because we were working on some plans to do some community engagement with your work, and so that didn't happen. I'm sorry about that.
Well, there's time yet. We'll find a way. I mean, Andre and I have very similar value systems. So his went into the humanitarian realm directly. But service is a huge, which came for me more from my upbringing, but service and humanitarianism and equity. In fact, Andre, I remember when you were in New Orleans and you came over to Tampa for a little bit to either on your way or to take a break. And that was when you were first like getting out in the field, and you were like, you kissed the art gallery goodbye and you were like, I'm going in the trenches. So you were there. We crossed paths in CSU and then again in Florida. I don't know if you were there yet, Nathan.
Not yet.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And yeah, I didn't find out what Andre was actually up to till 2011. I got a or 2010, I think, right after Vera was born, I got an alumnus magazine from CSU.
Oh yeah.
And he was in the back, graduate of the decade, and I was like, what the hell? What for what? And I read about it. It was like,
where's Nathan?
I asked myself that question.
how did he get to Doctors Without Borders? He's got an art degree. What the hell? What's going on? But yeah, so it was, and then I had always meant, Andre, to write you a letter, you know, because I didn't know how to contact you. I just wanted to write you a letter and be like, wow, man, you know, congratulations, you've done great, and blah blah blah. But you know, I never got around to doing that. So then, you know, when Catherine came up with this great idea for this show, which, you know, all of her ideas are brilliant, but you know, it was like, wow, this is a perfect time to reconnect with some people too. So
yeah, it was so cool and fortunate the way that this all took shape. Yeah,
I think I got a hold of you through LinkedIn. So that kudos to LinkedIn. Nikki,
MySpace.
Nikki, this is your home page here. You can see that all the different projects that you're doing, all the different media. It's kind of overwhelming, you know. I mean, just thinking about how you move from one media to another, and but so let's just take a look at the pieces that are in our show here. We have this piece, Yes Means Yes, and this, at first I would say this took me aback a little bit, because our household is really feminist, and you know, we had been talking at the time, my wife and I, raising a daughter, about no means no. And so I was like, oh wow, what's this? Yes means yes. So what you know, maybe explain that to us a little bit.
Sure, yeah. Nathan and I are both in the fine position of raising female citizens, and so this is, I think this might be a bit of a fit that happened when a certain president, who we're about to scoot out of the administration, some of my artwork started to be text-based, and I realized I'm not a wordsmith. I can barely, I make sculptures because I can't really, language isn't my forte. So I think somewhere after the first year of the administration, I started making what I'm realizing now are signs. I'm posting signs. Like I didn't have the fortune to make some of my more subtle and sweet and environmental pieces. Instead, I felt like I was shouting about the administration. And of course, one of the things that, the way that women were seen and shown and by the administration was just downright unacceptable. And so I don't know where my ideas come from, but this is a total, this is Barbara Kruger's color. She uses this color red in her feminist artwork. She's an important artist in the 70s. And this is also her font, so I stole her style, if you will. And then no means no is a slogan, an anti-rape slogan also from the 70s. And I think my students invited me to do like a show to raise money for Planned Parenthood. And I just was thinking how I'm tired of us having to say no. So the message is exactly the same. It's still consent. But why not say yes, like yes to yourself, yes to more money, to equal money, yes, yes all the way around. But so I think it was my sort of like digging through the dark of this, watching, you know, internment camps being built on the border with Mexico. And I think it was right around the time of grab them by the pussy. And this is like an angry piece where I'm trying to be positive and sort of flip that. So, and I know Nathan, with my daughter, we're like, I'm doing the same thing where we are talking about my body, my choice. And we actually acted out because we wrestle. She's really physical girl. And so she'll say my body, my choice. And I'll say, well, I'll be like, that's a good choice, but that's a good thing you just told me, but now you have to tell me what your choice is. It's like, you're telling me you want me. So we stop. And then I say, like, what's the problem here? And so my daughter's 5, by the way, she's running. And also, by the way, I tell her it's my body, my choice. Sometimes she'll climb up me like I'm a jungle gym. And I'm like, oh no, this is not a tree right here. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of affection, we also have this piece that when we talked about including this piece, of course, COVID wasn't even a thing. And so we were so excited. We thought this was a perfect piece for our community, especially that, you know, the idea of deflecting violence through embracing others, and you know, people could come up and hug this bag and have that really visceral experience of doing the opposite of what you're supposed to do with this thing. And but unfortunately, we can only look at it now and imagine. But it's a really great idea. Like, you know, the concept is just so amazing, and it just seems to be applicable to so many different times, not just now, but especially now. So
yeah, I need my hugging bag back because I'm all alone. And, I mean, I really lost an opportunity to sell hugging bags across the country during.
Not too late.
And then we had this wonderful project too, the Sound Totem project. And we do have Gloria couldn't make it with us today. So just so everybody knows what this piece does, when you open the door, that there's a soundtrack, there's speakers behind the door, there's a soundtrack. And Nikki was able to collaborate with a local poet here in St. Petersburg named Gloria Munoz, who sent Nikki an audio file and et cetera, et cetera. And so I have that. Gloria has sent us a video of her reading the poem so we can hear the poem. But Nikki, this is a fairly interesting project too, where you did this across Denver in public places at first.
Yeah, well, I had this, it actually started in Tampa. I won't tell the whole story, but basically this, there was a little forum in Tampa when I first moved there, and it was like, why are the young artists leaving Florida? And I was wondering that because I had just arrived to make art. And so anyway, this woman gets up and she was trained in opera singing. And she said, there's nowhere for me to sing, so I'm leaving. And she went to Juilliard, and she was like, she did everything she was supposed to, and she had to leave. And that night I had a dream of her singing. I had been looking at the hollows in trees and imagining like wormholes, and my imagination was just going insane, just where the hollows of the trees are. But that night, after witnessing this sort of sad story to me, she was there singing in the hollow of the tree. And so I was like, oh, that's what those are, those hollows in the trees. They're amphitheaters. So, 10 years later, I was able to construct these music boxes. And the first one I made, I was pretty scared. I found a tree and I just guerrilla installed it. I went downtown and I talked to arborists and I did all my research and I had an engineer to help me build it. And I just like snuck it into this tree in Uptown. And the public liked it. So, I thought I was going to get arrested, for, anyway, on and on. But the piece now is, so the city did eventually ask me to build a few others. And the bigger idea in the work is, besides having this hidden surprise, if you walk up and you see a little door in a tree, it's sort of like, I don't know, Winnie the Pooh or like the Keebler elves. There's like this hidden, so if you're brave enough to open it, it's a pretty big surprise in a real tree to see music playing. But the idea is that I'm just building a stage, and there's a big theme in my artwork that I'm sort of leveraging privilege or sort of diversifying an opportunity where I can create the sort of focal point and then give the spotlight over. So in the sound totems, it's all local artists and writers and poets who otherwise might not be able to play at a local theater or realize their band. So the sound totems and many of my other projects are meant to sort of be what's called a social platform to highlight other talent. And I was thinking, Ronnie, I was wondering what the music was at the beginning of the video, and I didn't put it together that was Ronnie's until you said that, because I was like, this is pretty risque music for, for this like.
But it wasn't Ronnie's music, and I wanted to use Ronnie's music. So.
It was.
But we'll get him to play before the end of the gathering, though.
Oh, I misheard that, because I definitely want to hear a song, but maybe Ronnie, there's something in the future where we could help build a little music piece. The one that you're seeing in the gallery came much later. These were meant to be in public and to be discovered. They're not, I didn't want people to have to go into a museum to see art or even to maybe know that it's art. It could just be like a hidden magical place. And so I made a version for the gallery, and then of course Nathan and Catherine introduced me to Gloria, and she wrote this really powerful piece about like how we're all drunk, we're gluttonous with basically with consumerism and consumption and the impacts that of course we're seeing with our diminishing resources. And so thank you very much for connecting me with Gloria, because it really is a stage for anyone.
Yeah. Well,
we were sorry that Gloria couldn't join us today, and also I think that poem has yet to be released in publication. So we can't even show it in the in the printed form in the gallery, but you can stand and listen to it.
She didn't tell me that.
Yeah, it's Gloria, for everyone who doesn't know, Gloria also teaches at Eckerd, and today is the last day of classes, so she couldn't be with us, but she did send us this video of her reading the poem. So let me get that up here.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry I can't join in person today. I am actually teaching my last class of the semester right now. It's been a wild one, that's for sure. I want to say thank you so much to the Dunedin Fine Arts Center and to Catherine and to Nathan and to Nikki for creating this really magical totem and fantastic opportunity to collaborate. Thank you so much. I'll be reading my poem that was part of Nikki's installation called The Romantics. We are high and eating everything. A Costco bag of Chex Mix, a jar of olives, There's a mountain of foil between us in bed from mouthfuls of kisses. We three asleep on our trash, brimming like subway rats after a baseball game. We are high and eating the tangerine sunrise, consuming our paranoid shoulders as we bury each other again in the sand. We are high and eating amp feedback, sweat, the band's emo harmonies. Nicotine sticks to our hairs, the syrupy bass pours through us. We're a uniform stack of buttermilk pancakes. We are high and eating our fingernails in front of our parents at mass, school plays, holidays, and graduations. They were all born in other countries. We're supposed to be better than this. We sneak into the kitchen window we prop open with a silent sponge. Each silver soap bubble hushes. See, see, see. As we slide over the sink and into a slumbering house. We are high and eating milk duds at another midnight screening of The Matrix. Neo is dope, but idiotic. We bend like three melting spoons around each other, pretend we are dreaming. We are high and eating everything, with our legs hanging off the jetty. Bioluminescence climbs our calves as smoke inhales us. Aglow, aglow. We're into the romantics and decide we won't make it past 25. We promise to marry each other if we're too afraid of everyone else. Our heads rest on the dock. Night blooms over us. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
That was really nice. She made that recording, and I haven't seen her, so then it's like I love her part poet, part wolf.
Yes.
That's great.
That was.
It was really good.
So everyone meet Joan Duffour. Part of my role here at the Arts Center over the years is I was also the education director while I was the curator for many years. And I met Joan as a creator and hired her to teach painting. As it turns out, Joan is my neighbor and lives on the street behind me. And we have become fast friends. But I think I will read a piece that I put here in the gallery that explains why Joan is my shero. Why is Joan my shero? She is an inspiration to me as a woman and as a creator. Her art is bold, complex, and provocative. She is curious and thoughtful in her relationships to others and her encounters with the world. At 88, she has lived a full life as a wife, mother, and grandmother, with a career as an elementary art teacher, while remaining devoted to her own path as an artist. As I write this, she's currently in upstate New York. Fortunately, Joan returned from her summer away, where every summer she journals and paints her vibrant abstracts in a friend's barn. Her home in Florida has been redesigned as a working studio. The living quarters are peripheral to the main area, which have been set up for unbridled creation. And then there is her garden. So Joan is my shero because she's been true to herself. She's a timeless creator who has transformed the natural travails of living into joy, purpose, connection, and yes, art. So Everyone, meet Joan. And here we are in your home that I was talking about. And I'd like to ask you, Joan, when you first moved down from the Northeast to Florida, how is it that you decided to set up your living in this way?
I was a single woman, a widow for the first time in 50 some years. And I was picking out a house for myself. And when I walked into this empty place, I saw the light that came in to the living room. And I thought, who needs a living room? And I'm just going to say I don't, and I'm the only one that has to make that decision. And I guess that's the way I approach painting as well. So I picked my living room. I had a retired carpenter come in and he put wonderful lights in it. And I have never regretted my choice. And I have a garden, a couple of bedrooms, a couple of bathrooms that are small, and all on one floor. So I'm very happy with my choice, and I was glad that I took advantage of my single-mindedness, which came naturally to me.
Yes, and over the years, you have welcomed friends into your home, and there have been some great parties.
Oh, yes.
Box making parties and ornament making. It helps to have your posse are all artists.
Yes.
So there've been some happy times in that home.
Oh, yes.
Now, I mentioned that when we met, Joan, that you were teaching at DFAC. Now you do an occasional workshop, I know. But in that invitation to our creative community, it was only the boldest students that had the courage to take your class, because you do work rather unconventionally. And I think that you've incorporated some of the techniques and problem-solving projects that you've learned from some of your mentors, if I'm not wrong. And in the gallery here, we have some of your flexograms,
Yes.
the box projects. We'll see if Nathan can show. There they are. Yep. And you work in a variety of media, which is something I've always admired about you, that you're ever learning, ever exploring. Tell us about your clay pieces. There's the flexogram.
Yes. A friend up north is a teacher at the Book Arts establishment in Soho, and she lives right up the street, and she taught me how to make flexograms, and I just found them fascinating. They normally are not mounted on a white box, but what I liked about them is that I could rip out something from newspapers and magazines that caught my eye for no reason, except I didn't have to have a reason. And I'd paste them in and then enhance them with drawing and graphic work. And I did this with my students, as Catherine was just discussing. I thought, since I like this, I think they will too. So rather than have them go through the rather taxing thing of making the glue so they'd all fold, I did that for them. And then I had them rip out and do what I did in terms of making something out of nothing, and then using what they made, their own flexogram, as a model for a painting. And I guess what Catherine said was true. I did like to give my students a challenge that I wasn't quite sure how it would work out, but I just assumed they were children at heart, and that's what I hope we all are. And that's, of course, why I enjoyed working with children. They have an openness, and to me, that's the best artists have, openness to making some bold choices and not caring if they succeed right away. So this is an example of flexogram, and I thought it reminds me of sculpture. So I made it into a sculpture which you can revolve. And I have several of these. In fact, I just finished a 3-panel 30 by 40 each panel using 2 flexograms that I made up north and seeing if they could be turned into a painting. So they can be seen on my website next month. And my website is joanduffbohr.com.
And that, it seems that the model of the flexogram really suits your style of working because as I understand, you rarely have any preconceived path of where your painting is going. And as I remember with the flexogram, you would create one plane and then fold it over on another. And then so new relationships presented themselves. And so you're constantly having to make new adaptations and yeah.
Yes, Catherine, you got it right. And I
And
think
so-
you
and
have
so
a
for those
little bit of my head in your head. And the new relationships, because you said it as I would have said it, I don't start off, I usually don't start off with anything specific as what will be the final painting. And
you have a lot of collage. Yeah, I think you appreciate the introduction of collage elements that kind of presents another layer of meaning or storytelling, as evidenced in your journals, which we do have here in the gallery. And I know Paulus Berenson was a very beloved mentor of yours. And I'll mention this, when I first went to Joan's house, she has bookshelves of these journals, and you can see they're all hand bound. She created, every cover is an original painting, and some of them are stuffed so full with notes, drawings, letters, that you can barely wedge them closed. And I remember when I was curating for bringing the works in the gallery, over the summer, there had been one that had an actual tire tread glued to the cover, which I think you must have taken to New York with you. But your work is ever a delight in terms of materials. And I think we can see that here in the gallery between the clay works, the journals, your robe that you made for your husband. Now tell us about working with Gail and some of the clay works here in the gallery.
Gail was an excellent teacher and unfortunately is not sharing her wonderful skills right now.
This is Gail Wynn.
I admire good teachers. I think they're the most valuable people in our society. And when you get a good one, you know it. And that's why Stephen Dunn also is an excellent teacher as well as an artist in his own right. Gail would bring in examples of work from the Far East, from pagan things, from Africa, and just she would show us a variety of things and let us go with it. And I really do not remember where I got my inspiration with a name, but I know I was inspired, and I have some pieces in my garden that have all these curves, these organic feels, but she gave us ideas of ways to go. And I am not a wheel person. I do not enjoy working on the wheel. I'm very poor at it, I will add, but I enjoy hand building because it's like painting. You get ideas as you go along, and as long as you know a few techniques, anything's possible, and that's what appeals to me.
I find that so heartening and rich here in the gallery to look around and to know that as you're telling your story through your creations, you're also bringing these teachers who've touched you along with you. So you had chosen Stephen Dunn as your hero in this instance. And part of your story, I know, Joan, as an elementary art teacher, over the years was that you would use your summers to do a residency or travel to a new locale and study with a teacher offering a new media to you. So Stephen, as a poet, that was a bit of a departure, but when we encounter your works in person, you always, the titles always add a whole other passage to engage with the work. So tell us about Stephen.
I'm so glad that you picked up on my titles. I actually feel that until I come up with a title for my painting, I'm not ready to let it go out of the studio. And since I don't start off knowing why I'm doing something, I have to play with my own mind as to what, with the composition that I have and the items that are in the composition. For example, the two that you're looking at here, the pliers and the hook, they just happened because I have to start off with some kind of shape. And so I would start off with unlikely things, and birds were also part of my interest. And so I start off with shapes and I make a composition that works with the color and the shape, but then I have to think about what could that mean besides the obvious. It's not just a pliers. What kind of emotion does it bring to me? And it brings to me a certain amount of violence. I like tension in a painting, actually. And so I sort of look for that. But the idea of using something that can mean something else is fascinating to me. And about studying with Stephen Dunn, I actually did not plan to study with him. I always felt poetry required that you reveal secrets about yourself. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel ready, but I was put into his class because the one I signed up for was full. And he is a remarkable teacher. He is still living and writing, and he has several books out, which are on his website. And he gets back to me every so often, and he's got a great sense of humor, and he is tough on people in a way. He allows them to even get emotional in class and doesn't feel that when they get emotional that they or anyone should try to make them feel better. He feels getting emotional is being honest. And I learned something about that in being in his class. And we were all beginners there. There were not accomplished poets or people who had had things written. So I was in a class where we were all sort of children. But I was impressed with that, the way he dealt with people's emotions and assumed that it could bring tears, and that's all right. And that was new to me. So I learned a lot from him.
We should mention that Stephen is a Pulitzer Prize winning poet and has had a long career as a teacher and many published works, but that at present we would have had him on the presentation, but he has Parkinson's and he's unable to use his voice. So that was, we did our best to represent him otherwise.
I could interrupt for a minute there. I went to his website recently, and I think there are things on there, tapes and things of that sort, which
Yeah.
books on tape, or so I frankly did not try them, but it could be that he has recorded some of his
Oh,
readings.
he does. He does indeed. And we actually attempted to have a monitor representing him in the gallery, and we ran up against some technical challenges. But yes, we certainly can refer people to Stephen's website. And then you were going to say about Paulus. That was an interesting
Oh, yes.
passage.
Well, Paulus Berenson was a dancer with Martha Graham, and he would start all his classes with a round dance. We would just, I mean, you didn't know what to expect. He is not a craftsman who teaches you with the stitching. That was not his forte. He's an idea person. And he would, when we made our journals, we made journals using one of his assistants who helped us with the technical aspects of stitching things together. So then we have a beautiful book, and it's all with empty pages. And I have found when I made books with people and taught them how to make them, once they get a beautiful book, they don't want to dirty it up with, they don't know what is good enough to put into it. So what Paulus did was, before we even had put the cover on or sewed it together, we had our folded pages, and I forget what they're called, but he would give us things to write down. So we'd write them right in this on our pages that were going to be sewed in. And so we would already, by the time we were sewing things together, which was at the end, we would have a book full of experiments, like how you write your name, and try that 5 times and see. It was just so many examples of free thinking and not self-conscious work with thoughts and words. And so he was just an idea person. All of my teachers are craftsmen. Some of them are craftsmen and technicians, but they also are idea people with ideas that lead you somewhere else, possibly, and find out about yourself.
Now we've caught glimpses of the robe that you created, and I know that you had a whole body of fiber artworks. That you had your memory quilt that I did photograph over the summer, that I know is now in New York, but you have crocheted creations, and this is such a beautiful piece, and it is hanging sort of kimono-like here in the gallery. So tell us a little bit about those explorations.
Well, this robe initially was just, it was done in a workshop in North Carolina, Penland School. If anyone is a craftsman, they will know of Penland School. And so it was surface design. So instead of working on paper, you're working on cloth. And we all had a huge table. And for this particular robe, there was a way of putting fabric dye into tubes. And once the dye is in the tube, you move it around and you can't stop. If you can imagine a long tube with paint that keeps coming out. So you keep moving, and you do it with different size tubes. It was very expressionistic or gestural, and I loved that quality. And I think it's like using drawing tools. You use thick and thin, and one thing is on top of something else. And I feel like I do this with my paintings as well. So I knew how to sew, and we were told to bring a sewing machine there as well. And we lived there. We had meals there and slept there. And so we were able to do amazing things. And you have no other distractions. And of course I loved it. Yes.
A gift. What a gift for an artist. Absolutely. And especially a working mom. That must have been the greatest gift.
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely.
I think that we'll end our conversation, Joan, where we started, and that is, I'm just looking around you in your home, and always what an inspiration when I visit you to see what you are up to. And I see the drawing to your left, and I see the jacket hanging on the wall, which I know is an object of inspiration to capture elements from, and then the painting on the other side. So everybody should know this is your living room. This is where it's at. And there's cloths on the floor. And so I think that what you represent to me, and in large part why you are my Shero, is that I think you have lived your life in a fearless way. And you inspire me, and I want to be you when I grow up, Joan. You know how much I love you.
That's very sweet, dear. You're a great friend of mine. I actually moved to Dunedin after going to the art center, and I remember you commented I was wearing headscarves then. You said you liked my headscarf. Yeah, I like that too. And the art center was one of my draws to Dunedin, plus the Pinellas Trail. Those two things.
Lucky us. Lucky us.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I thank you for being with us today, along with all the other artists. And what a privilege and joy it's been to spend this time together. I am going to just read a little bit of a summary that when I was doing an intro for the show that I think kind of pulls everything together, and that is that poetry really rules this exhibition. The poetry of song, the visual poetry of abstraction, poetry in motion, a blazing dragster, a gliding dancer, the poetry of decisive, compassionate action, the poetry, of humor, imagination, bravery. And so the exhibition we put together was meant to inspire by reminding us of the many faces and forms greatness takes, and to be aware that there are heroes and sheroes in our midst. And Ronnie, I would love for you to play a song before we say goodbye, would you?
And maybe we can go out as I'm playing.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. What an honor to have you here. And thanks to everybody who attended.
Sorry, Catherine, to interject.
Oh,
we have the little bit about the
constellation
wall after Ronnie sings. So
okay, yeah.
But we can leave as Ronnie sings as well. It's your call.
You could play it while Ronnie's singing, maybe.
Okay, perfect.
Although I don't want to say goodbye to his face.
You have the stage, Ronnie.
The ones who burn, burn, burn. What's the love of the night? They light up like a cigarette. I only want to be with the ones who burn, burn, burn. What's the fire in their soul? Nothing they regret. On a romance and needing fire, I'm looking for poetry, searching for desire. I'm looking for goodness, plan on sin. I'm guzzling wine, flat on my back again. I'm walking around heaven, diamond dust on my shoes. All the angels are naked, singing the blues. I got a copy of Lolita, just in case I need it. I got a monkey on my back and I'm trying not to feed it. They wanna be with the ones who burn, burn, burn. One's in love with the night, they light up like a cigarette. I wanna be with the ones who burn, burn, burn. Ones with a fire in their soul and nothing they regret. I'm stepping over traps, except for the lions. I'm hiding from fascists, waiting and crying. I'm looking under rocks for all that is true. I'm red on the outside, bluer than you. Walking around heaven, diamond dust on my shoes, and I'm sticking and seeing the foreign that's true. And I'm looking under rocks, hoping it's true. I'm living on crumbs and thinking about you. I wanna be with the ones who burn, burn, burn. One's in love with the night, they light up like a cigarette. I wanna be with the ones who burn, burn, burn. Ones with nothing in their pocket but a $2 bid.
Yay! Perfect. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, everyone.
It was great.
Wish-
Thank you.
Wish we could all be together, but we were.
Remember to come on in. We are open. Bring your masks. And we have lots of great exhibitions. We're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. And we have our holiday show up right now. Lots of great gifts to buy your family members and friends.
Thank you, everyone. It was so lovely hearing about all of you, and you're all so talented. And I hope someday I can be Joan or Ada, or all of you are so inspiring. Ronnie, I'm gonna have to get your CD. And so thank you, Catherine, and Ethan, and
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Nikki. Thank you, Hilary.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you very much.
Hilary.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So appreciate it.
Ada.
Bye, guys. Stay safe out
Bye.
there.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.